Hey, thanks for coming out. As we get this thing started, we need you. We need you now. The 12's in the house. Coming up from our first game when we get in the preseason, we need you. When we get to that opener, we really need you. We're going to call on you. And all we're going to ask for is to do what you always do. Give us the great love and the great following, the heart and soul, and all that noise that you rock that makes us better. So we're looking forward to it. 12's, thanks for coming. Keep coming out. Keep watching us. There's so many exciting things on this football team. I hope you can tell today so many different guys can do so many things. We're really excited about it. This is probably the fastest team we've ever had, and we're going to show you what that speed means when we get to our ball games. Thanks for coming out. Drive carefully going home. Love you, 12. Nice going. Thank you.
This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 379. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Dude, it's happening. It's happening. The season is starting. I don't know about you, man, but when training camp rolls around and all that stuff kicks off, that's when it finally feels like the season is actually upon us. For me.
You get the daily updates from the Seahawks, the YouTube videos to where you can watch them. Now, they don't show anything of too much interest in terms of the practices. You know, a lot of running of drills and backs of jerseys, and occasionally you get to see a pass completed here and there. But yeah, it's not the full experience, but it does get you ramped up knowing that it's just around the corner.
Oh, absolutely. I do find it interesting, though, that they'll let people sit on the berm there for the entire practice and see everything.
Yeah.
And yet when they broadcast it, like, keep everything hush hush. It's like, geez Louise, like, if somebody really, one of your opponents really wanted to get information from your practice, they would have somebody on the berm filming and you'd never know about it.
But I suppose, why make it easy for them? I don't think that they actually leave those practice videos up online, though. So I
no,
think
they don't.
Yeah. So somebody said, "Oh, you got to go find Travis Homer's interview with Jen Mueller," and I'm like, "Well, where is it? I'm not seeing it anywhere."
Nope, it was on the live stream. It gone now.
It was on the live stream, and now it's gone. So
yeah, I hope everybody's been enjoying it though. Like, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure a lot of guys have been watching and gals have been watching the live stream. It's exciting, man. It really is.
Things being gone is kind of par for the course, though. I mean, we're going to get into just how much has changed this offseason. I picture someone tuning in and they're like, "Oh yeah, the Seahawkers Podcast, the season expectations show. This is where they kind of recap some of the stuff from the offseason. I've been checked out of football. I wonder what I've missed this offseason." And I wonder if there's any of those people that are tuning in and they're like, "Wow, I can't wait to see what Russ is going to do this year." And man, I hate to break it to you, Russell Wilson traded to the Broncos in the offseason.
Yeah, surely was. I can guarantee you that anybody who has ever watched a Seahawks game and calls themselves a quote fan, even if you're a fair weather fan, like I am, say like a Celtics fan for basketball, you know Russell Wilson's guy. Everybody knows.
You probably should, because even non-football fans who are just tangentially aware of the NFL existing, I feel like the Russell Wilson trade was probably something that hit their radar on the offseason.
Yeah, for sure. And Russ isn't going to let you forget that he's gone either.
Yeah. Did you see I think he was the one guy in the entire NFL that showed up wearing his own jersey and getting out of his giant tank of I don't know if it's a Hummer, but if like, do they still make
Dodge?
Is it a Dodge? You knew that. You saw that and you're like, I know what that is because I want that one to get to my house. The only thing is that I guarantee
I would never want that truck to get to my house. That is one of the dumbest setup trucks I have ever seen for wheeling in the Rocky Mountains and getting places in the Rocky Mountains. I don't understand who sold him that truck, but they fleeced him. Starting with that dumbass grill guard on the front of it. I don't know if you noticed, but not only does it wrap all the way around the front, which is fine. Like, some people like to have a deer slayer on the front of their truck, you know, because they hop out in front of you because they're stupid. But if you have a deer slayer on the front of your truck, what you want is you want it tipped forward slightly so that it pushes the body underneath the rig as you drive over it, rather than kick it up and over the hood. So number one, it's not set up for that. I don't know what it's for. Secondly, it wraps all the way around the top of the hood. What the heck is the point of that? If you have to change the oil, good luck filling it up. You have to get in the engine bay at all. You can't open the hood. I don't get it.
Maybe it's on
really
hinges.
dumb.
Maybe it swings.
It's going to have to be. Just so dumb. Then he's got the Brodozer tires on it. And if you're not familiar with the Brodozer term, basically those are the people that put the larger rims and kind of the lower profile, super fat tires on their truck and turn it into a Brodozer. Like they drive around calling their frat boy friends and talking, things from back in the day in college. Those tires are fucking worthless in the high Colorado Rocky Mountains / Montana mountains, especially if somebody told them this is so you can get around in the snow in Colorado. That is the exact opposite of the tire that you want on that truck. You want the tall, skinny pizza cutters, man. That more pounds per square inch on the tire, a little more clearance and less, what would it be? Not friction, but resistance as you drive through the snow. That's a stupid truck. And he got it to offset something else in his life, clearly. And somebody made bank on it.
I feel like there's important football stuff to get to, but I have to continue this conversation because when I looked at that vehicle, I had to wonder, does Russell have to drive through a mud pit home? Is the road to his house just consisted of mud? Because I have to think that based on his paycheck that he pulls in every single week, he can afford a paved road to his house.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a house with 46 bathrooms probably has a paved road, maybe even a paved driveway. It's crazy.
Well, it gets worse. If you didn't hear about Russell Wilson, then I'm sure you didn't hear about Bobby Wagner leaving and is now a freaking member of the Los Angeles Rams.
Right. Yep. Everybody knows that one. We got Bobby Wagner over there, the bizarro version of Bobby Wagner in a Rams uniform. So that's fun.
It's one F word that I would not use.
Yeah.
That was the two biggest moves of the offseason, the Seahawks and the Russell Wilson trade. They get Drew Lock back, and we get to watch Drew Lock in practice along with re-signed Geno Smith. So we've got Drew Lock, Geno Smith. Those are the guys we've been watching compete in practice these last few weeks. We got to see them open up the training camp press conferences here this week with kind of what they had to say. It definitely appears that one is the leader, although maybe that'll change.
Oh, really? I'm curious to think which one that is.
Well, I suppose when one is getting significantly, and by significantly, I mean all of the second team snaps, that quarterback is Drew Lock, and Geno Smith getting all the first team reps. I have to think that the Seahawks have more of a plan leaning Geno Smith initially, and they're going to make Drew Lock earn it. And we'll just have to see if he pulls through with that part of the agreement there.
I 100% disagree.
So Drew Lock is just with the second team just because they really need to see what Geno Smith can do with the first team.
Absolutely.
That
They're
makes
going to
no
let
sense.
Geno. It 100% makes sense.
Zero sense.
If you're walking into this season and you're thinking that you're more likely going to end up going with Drew Lock than Geno, and you need to see them both with the first team and have significant, consistent reps with the first team, wouldn't you rather have Drew Lock getting those consistent first team reps later and closer to the season than now? Wouldn't you want to see if all the work that Geno had put in the offseason, his extra knowledge of the playbook and everything, if that really pays off, wouldn't you want to see that earlier rather than later? So then Drew would then have a chance to get up to speed with the ones before week one? I think you would. Secondly, you start hearing about the performance in the first couple days here of practice going against the defense and in pads and all that stuff. And one of them is turning the ball over and one of them is not.
Well, I think you have to throw it in the general direction of the actual receivers to be able to make turnovers happen. So that may be why Drew isn't turning it over as much.
Oh, because he's throwing to the lesser receivers?
Or the ground, or yeah.
Well, it sounds like it depends on what report you're going to listen to. Some people talk that these guys go on these little hot streaks and they look good. Other people it's a dumpster fire on offense. The defense is crushing them. good luck figuring out exactly what's going on.
Well, okay, let me go back to your line of reasoning, at least for Drew Lock and being with the second team. If you're the Seahawks, you know what you have in Geno Smith. He's a guy who's been there for multiple years. I don't think that you have to see what work that he's put in this particular offseason to know the kind of quarterback that he's going to be. So if you were already in that mindset that Drew Lock is going to be your week 1 starter, then I think it's kind of silly to not have him rep with the first team immediately starting the first week of training camp.
On top of the fact that you would want Drew having more time with the ones closer to the beginning of the season. There's
I'd wanted all of the training camp.
Oh, okay. Well, then fine. Don't have a quarterback competition. Get rid of Geno. I mean, if you're having a competition, that none of them are going to get all of them. So then you have to decide when you're divvying them up.
Okay, if you're having a competition, then why wouldn't you split first team reps in the first week?
Okay, so we've seen this going on in a couple different training camps. The Panthers are doing this, and I believe the Steelers are doing this as well. The guys aren't splitting up the first team reps, every other rep, every third series, whatever like that. They're splitting it up by the week or by, at the very least, the day. So the guys have the opportunity to consistently work with the ones to see what you really have. It makes it much more difficult to make an evaluation if you're constantly changing who they're working with around. So I really think that the Seahawks were like, look, we're going to give Geno the benefit of the doubt coming out of the gate and give him the reps with the ones because, number one, he knows the playbook better coming into training camp this year. And number two, he's been with us for a while and the guys kind of know him and all of that. Like, it seems like you should probably give Geno the first crack at it. And if he falls on his face, then you've got all the time leading up the season to throw Drew in there and have him ready to go by week 1 or as much as he can be.
Well, that would make more sense. But so then if a week from now,
it all works together from what I was saying. That goes hand in glove with what I was saying earlier.
If a week from now, Drew isn't running with the first team in training camp, then it would look like Geno's out in front and that's just the way that they're going.
I would say if Drew is not running with the ones after week 1 of the preseason, then yes, they're going with Geno.
I think that's a fair expectation. I think there is that question of why isn't Drew getting more time with the first team here in training camp? And I think that there is a seniority to it. I think there's it may have been part of the negotiation to get Geno back in Seattle for the contract that they did. Say, hey, we're going to give you every opportunity to be the starter on this team. And by every opportunity, that means you at least have to let him run with the first team offense for at least the initial part until we see something from Drew, whether it's in the mock game coming up on Saturday, whether it's in the first preseason game against the Steelers coming up. The players themselves, they have to see that one of the quarterbacks over the other gives them the better opportunity to win. And I think that that's what made it easy when we had a quarterback competition 10 years ago when Russell Wilson was here and it was Russell and Matt Flynn. And they could say, hey, after we saw Russ in that opening preseason game, this is the guy that's going to give us the best chance long term. And then you started to see that transition happening.
I think it's going to be less what Drew shows in these first few weeks and more what Geno doesn't.
Explain that.
I believe that you're going to see Geno have the struggles moving this offense throughout the first few weeks of training camp and maybe even that first preseason game. And then at that point, by default, you're going to give Drew the shot because he has the most quote unquote upside.
The thing about that, though, is, and I always try and keep this in mind, especially when you have young quarterbacks coming in, when you have a guy who is, especially a veteran, like Geno Smith in the preseason, I expect him when he's going against second team defenses in the preseason in particular, that he should be able to tear those guys up because he's a veteran player. And these guys are generally the younger players that you see on the second team. I expect him to do well against second teamers. And so the same is going to go. It's my expectation. Now, whether or not he can do it, I don't know. I don't know if Drew will be able to do it.
Yeah, I
have the same expectation for him too. If you're going to be the starter, you better be tearing up the twos.
If you're looking to win a crap ton of games this year, sure. But I don't know that they are. But then again, this whole conversation could be moot because the Niners are going to release Jimmy G and he's going to be a Seahawk, right?
Right.
Says everybody in the national media.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. The Giants seem to be kind of a sleeper team as a potential place for him to go. That
makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're actually looking to turn things around and start winning.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to bottom out as much as a bottom out is for Pete Carroll.
Well, let's talk about that because this is our season expectations show. And I do want to get into record predictions and that sort of thing, or just kind of general how we think the season is going to go. But one question I wanted to start off with was around the offense. How is this offense going to be the same or different without Russell Wilson behind center?
I think that you're not going to see as many deep shots. I think you might see some throws over the middle, heaven forbid. And I think what you'll see the most of are checkdowns to the running backs. I think you're going to see a lot of those in comparison to when Russ ran the offense.
It was interesting listening to Drew talk about the way that Pete wants his offense run and how he kind of had to get out of the, maybe not get out of it, but be aware of the gunslinger mindset that he has to kind of play to live another down, as I think he put it. And I know he was talking about making his checkdowns, and he also talked about how Pete wants to extend plays, which made me think, okay, well, the way Russ operated, he was always about extending plays. And part of extending plays, it allows those guys to get open downfield to where you can take those deep shots. So they do have, so the offense, I don't know if it's going to change a ton in terms of having the planned play and then having the play after the planned play breaks down. That's going to continue to be there, which I thought was interesting just based off of what I heard from Pete and Locke talking. So you're right. I think we're going to see more shots over the middle because there have to be, and more checkdowns of the running backs because there has to be.
Heaven forbid a screen or two. You never know. But I do think that as far as the secondary play and the scramble drill kind of stuff and the scribble play things that we've always joked about with Russ over the years, if Geno is a starter, you're not going to see much of that.
Geno is not a scribble play kind of guy.
No. If it's not within the structure of the offense, it ain't happening. And not only that, but if it's much past the second read, it's probably not happening.
The second read maybe being the check down.
I'll just say this. We've made fun of Russ a lot this offseason, and Seahawks fans, we all want to get excited about Geno or Drew. Well, with more running and this stuff, it'll be fine. And all they got to do is be a point guard and manage a game and all that. It's going to be a massive drop off from Russ to one of these two guys. It just is. That is, if I'm taking off my fandom hat, if we're doing our actual season expectations show, where I have to actually, make a real grounded prediction in reality, then let's start there. The quarterback position is going to be a dumpster fire in comparison to what it was the last 10 years.
We're not getting 17 games of Geno Smith versus Jacksonville output.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And even that, if you go back and you look at it, not quite as impressive as you remember.
Yeah, I suppose. I think the defense played well in that game, if I'm thinking back, and put them in good positions to score points. So, no, the Geno Smith that I remember is, well, you had the one exciting moment against the Rams where you thought that maybe he could put them in position to win in the fourth quarter. That's going to be another thing that we're going to miss without Russ. Like, I don't know that we're going to miss that part though. Like last 2-3 year Russ? Last year's Russ in the fourth quarter wasn't great, but he was hurt most of the year. So I'm going to throw out last year's fourth quarter.
The year before that.
No, he was fine the year before that with fourth quarter.
No, he was
comebacks.
not. No, he was not. Not the second half of the year. He was trash, dude.
Okay, and the second, but I'm thinking in terms of overall, like his fourth quarter, he's pretty consistent over the years that he gets about 4 or 5 comeback fourth quarter victories per year. And
the
I would
game winning or tying score, the stat,
yeah. And whether or not he was good with that, I mean, definitely not in the playoffs, but or those final couple weeks, but it was awfully close. Shoot, think about that final game of the season against San Fran, where they, who was it? Was it Hollister who caught the ball just short of the goal line, and he was inches away from getting in. So you make that happen, you win that game. You have a fourth quarter stat.
But then it didn't happen. So
I don't think that was necessarily Russ's issue with getting through Dre Greenlaw, though. I suppose he threw it far enough underneath that the guy couldn't make it to the end zone. But anyway, they got him to the goal line. You're going to go from 4 or 5 a year to maybe 1 or 2.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I just think at this stage of his career, Russ isn't the fourth quarter king that he was earlier on in his career.
Yeah.
I over the last 3 years, I just did not have the faith that he was going to pull a rabbit out of his hat like he had for the majority of his career. I just really didn't.
That just went away for me last year, but that was, again, it was more so due to injury and the way the team was performing. And it has to do with the team around him too. It's not just Russ.
Of course. But with that said, this team that's around Gino and Drew this year, potentially in terms of the offense, has a lot more talent around him than, say, just last year.
There's components of that. I do have more of a concern about the offensive line with 2 young guys at either tackle position. And it sounds like from how things are going so far, you got Charles Cross, who's going to be your left tackle because he was top 10 pick. You've got to start that guy at left tackle right away. It sounds like Jake Curhan is getting the right tackle reps. It did sound like, well, and you even heard from Geno Smith in his press conference this week talking about the offensive line, cycle through 3 different names at right tackle. He said Jake, he said Stone Forsythe, and he said the rookie Abe Lucas. So there's 3 potential guys that could be there at right tackle. With both Drew or Geno, whether either one of them is behind center, I think having young guys at those spots, it's going to have an impact on the offense to where you could count on Russ to make some moves and make guys miss more often than not, to where it would be less of a concern, I guess. There's going to be a drop off there too, I think.
I don't know that there's going to be that big of a drop off there. I think at Dwayne Brown's latter stage of his career, his last year, I think that Charles Cross could be every bit of final year Dwayne Brown. I think he could absolutely be that this year. And then we did see Curran last season really hold his own at right tackle. He was fine.
That's fine.
It wasn't great. He was fine.
Yeah.
And I think
he was a better version of Jermaine Ifedi.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. A few less boneheaded plays, right?
Yeah.
And then I do think, much to your chagrin, that Austin Blythe is a slight upgrade over Posick. I do.
Okay.
Especially in this system. So I think up the middle, they're going to be pretty stout when it comes to Damian Lewis, Blythe, and Gabe Jackson. And I think left tackle, I think we're going to be just fine with Charles Cross then. I really do. And then right tackle, if Curran can just be what he was last year, the offensive line is fairly solid. And not only that, but wasn't Curran playing right tackle when Penny started to go off?
He was. Yeah. If they can keep that run game going.
Because we've sat here and talked quarterbacks or trucks and quarterbacks for the large part of the beginning of the show here, right? And that really is the lesser of the 2 position players that touch the ball on the regular that we need to concern ourselves with, because it all revolves around Penny and Ken Walker. It all revolves around them, the success or failure of this offense.
And that's why the offensive line, they have to be able to run block this year. So a big part of that is, can Blythe be that run blocker that Posick was? Because Posick was blocking very well in the run game last year.
Your center evaluations are interesting. I mean, He was fine. Posick was fine.
He was downfield a lot, though.
Fine.
Well, I don't have an evaluation of Austin Blythe because I haven't gone back to watch his one season as Rams center to really get a good look, because I don't think that he was at center the year that Gurley was going off. I think he was a guard.
Might be true. I don't know. It's hard telling, not knowing there.
What?
But he does.
I have a hard time believing your evaluations of center if you don't even know where Blythe was playing when he was with the Rams.
I know he played center for the Rams and he was fine. And I know that neither of us have seen him in a Seahawks uniform yet. So there's a lot to be said there. But I do believe that if they can run the ball the way that they were towards the end of last season, and it's a big if, then this team is going to be interesting game in and game out. If they can't, this could be a 10 points a game offense for reals. Even with DK and Tyler and Marquise and D. Eskridge and all that stuff. If D. Eskridge could ever, find his way to the field, it could be a dumpster fire offense very easily.
Well, absolutely. Because if I'm an opponent facing off against the Seahawks, I know exactly what I'm going to try and shut down when it comes to the Seattle offense. I'm going to load up against the run on first and second down. And if you're not getting anything, I'm going to keep planning on just putting 7, 8, 9 guys on the box and waiting until you can throw a pass to change that.
Absolutely. And so then it's just a matter of, can these guys take advantage, Drew or Gino, of potential single coverage down the field?
Right.
I mean,
and
maybe
you would hope with the guys like DK Metcalf, who just got the big contract, Tyler Lockett, a veteran player who, from all accounts, from preseason training camp, has that chemistry now with Geno Smith. If they can make that happen, it's going to come down to that.
Although I don't think,
but we're talking about actually wanting to win,
right? And you know what? I do. I want to win.
I do too.
I do. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, okay. So I was thinking about this. Let's say in a world of no consequences, or a world that maybe doesn't make sense, this transpires. The Niners release Garoppolo. Garoppolo comes to Seattle. Garoppolo is an upgrade over Drew Lock or Geno Smith. He is, as much as Garoppolo has his limitations, he is an upgrade over those two guys.
When he's healthy, he's an upgrade over those two guys. So
that's maybe a 10-win season with Garoppolo, right?
Okay.
And you're like, whoa, wait a second. Now we don't have that high draft pick to draft the quarterback of the future. Well, if Garoppolo plays well and you sign him to a 1-year deal, because that's what you're going to do if he's released, then you can maybe trade him along with a couple of your draft picks that you have stocked up, even if they're a little bit lower, yours maybe being a little bit lower, the Broncos being a little bit higher since they'll finish last in their division.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still parlay all of that into that quarterback draft pick that you're looking for.
Oh, it's just like what I said as the reasoning to go get Baker, but okay.
Yeah, except for Baker has never gotten out of the first round. So there's that.
Okay. I thought he got a playoff win.
Oh, he did. He had one.
He got out of the first
never
round.
got out of the second round. Sorry.
There we go.
But with that said, I'd rather win than to lose, and so even if they end up with a number of wins this year and not a top 5 pick, it is not the end of the world in terms of getting that franchise quarterback in the draft coming up here this thing. But a lot of people will lead you to believe it is. Now, is it a little easier if you have a top 5 pick? Sure. But it could be Denver's.
It could be. And go back to when Patrick Mahomes, where he was taken in the draft, go back to where Josh Allen was taken in the draft, go back to where Lamar Jackson was taken at the end of the first round with, I believe, a pick that the Seahawks traded away.
Right. So
those
there
guys
you go.
Can be found, and all MVP caliber quarterbacks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that conversation is interesting, but yeah, it all comes down to Rashad Penny and Ken Walker in terms of this offense having success this year. And it's a big if, relying on Penny to duplicate what he did before. It's a big if. We know it's possible.
We watched it for several weeks last year. If he can continue to do that, I can't bring myself to rely on him being healthy. And really, with Ken Walker, it's still a big if on guys transitioning to the NFL. You even see some of those guys taken in the second round struggle with either injuries or struggle to be that dominant type of back once they make it into the NFL. Even that, I don't think you can count on. Now, will one of the two work out? I hope so.
Yeah. Well, we kind of need them both, though.
We do.
We really will.
I asked for it in the show the other day. 2 1,000-yard rushers with Penny and Walker, and 2 1,200-yard receivers in DK and Tyler. And is that asking too much?
Yeah.
I know. It probably is.
Yeah. It is. It's going to be a rough year, man. It's going to be a rough year. And that's okay. It can have its own bit of fun to it if you come into the season with the correct mindset. But the offensive side of the ball, that's not where these games are going to be won and lost this year. It's just not.
We better see something from this defense. Like, there better be improvement over last year's defense with Kent Norton Jr. being gone, with the new defensive staff being put into place, with the scheme change. There is a lot of change happening with this team. And gosh, you let go Carlos Dunlap. You let go. Who was the other pass rusher that they allowed to leave in the offseason? Mayoa leaving in the offseason. So there was
Rasheem Green.
3 guys that were a pretty significant portion of your sack production that are leaving. And yeah, you hope that Darrell Taylor can continue to grow into that role. You hope Uchenna Nwosu, a guy that you picked up in free agency, can help deliver that. Shelby Harris, the guy that you got in the Russell Wilson trade, can provide some pressure up the middle. Quentin Jefferson coming back can give some of that pressure up the middle as well. LJ Collier, you hope that he can develop and actually make the field and be a guy who isn't scratched from the lineup in the regular season.
Yeah, I gave up on that one a long time ago.
Okay. I thought I would throw him in there, though, as just as a piece that we're hopeful about.
Well, I mean, people can be if they'd like. I'm not going to tell you who or who not to be hopeful.
I mean, we had written off Rashad Penny, and look what happened. So maybe this is the year LJ Collier comes out and he's Lawrence Taylor all of a sudden.
Sure. I mean, it's possible. The guy that's going to be or have the opportunity to be closer to Lawrence Taylor is the guy who actually shares the same height and weight as Lawrence Taylor, and that is and last name, and that is Darrell Taylor.
Yeah.
Now, to me, the crux of this defense, and we're talking about, there's actually a lot of talent on this defense. I actually think up the middle, they're going to be pretty stout with Barton and Jordan Brooks as your backers, and Al Woods, Poona Ford, Jefferson, and Poona Ford. And I think they're going to be pretty stout up the middle. I really do. So then you think about the secondary, and we're all wringing our hands over the corner position to a degree, and that's fine. I mean, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys that emerge and go out there and be fine. Artie Burns might be fine. I don't know. Yeah, he was fine last year for the Bears. Not great. Fine. Kobe Bryant seems to actually be showing his potential of being a professional corner. And then obviously you have the 2, all pro safeties, right? In Adams and Diggs. And who knows if Adams is wearing that cast all year. I heard somebody say that. I think Jen Mueller mentioned that at one point during the broadcast. I was like, why would he wear that all year if his finger's just broken? Doesn't that heal at some point? I would very much like him to not wear that all season. But I think what we've learned over the years is that pass rush makes a secondary. A secondary doesn't make a pass rush.
Yeah.
And so everything this year, everything for the whole team comes down to Nwosu and Taylor. Can they be big time pass rushers? Because if the pass rush isn't alive and well this year, this is a 3-win year.
Yeah. And you got a couple rookie pass rushers in there too that you picked up through the draft that you hope can contribute with Boye Mafe.
Yeah, the kid from Ohio State. And I keep forgetting about Boye Mafe. He's an exciting player. You betcha.
So yeah, it does. It comes down to that. I think that at corner, they're probably going to have. It sounds to me that if you were to pick 2 corners based on how guys are looking at training camp through week 1, it's probably going to be Sidney Jones and Kobe Bryant,
or Sidney Jones and Artie Burns.
Maybe, yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of Artie Burns buzz.
Well, I did see, watching the stream the other day, DK Metcalf matching up with Kobe Bryant and catching a pass and beating the corner. But he was matched up against him.
And you also read in the reports that Kobe broke up a couple that were going DK's way as well. So it'll be interesting. Now, a lot of people are like, well, what about Tyrique Woolen? What about that guy? He's 7 feet tall and runs a 2.240. You know, he's the fastest human that's ever been, and he's Shaq size.
Uh-huh.
Well, okay. He's super, super raw. If you are expecting him to be a major contributor this year, you're going to be sorely mistaken. That's
unless you consider gunner on punt coverage major contributor,
right? Yeah,
because that's the place where I expect him to excel.
But with all that said, you hear Pete talking. We are younger and faster than we ever been. He's said that multiple times now, and I think he means more on defense than per se offense.
Yeah, that's the clip that led into this show. In fact.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because he was speaking to the entire group of 12s there on the berm that this is the fastest team that they've had.
We'll see. That's a bold statement. And I think in today's NFL, you'd rather be on the faster side of things than the bigger side of things. That seems to be the way that this league is going.
But they're big up the middle where they need to be too. So it's not like you have a bunch of fast guys that are going to get beat by teams that choose then to pound the rock up the middle. Not that there's a lot of those teams out there in the NFL anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But the few that there are, they've had very consistent success over a lot of years. So I think there's something to be said for that style of play still. And it's something that we're going to explore this year. And if we're talking about season expectations, I expect this defense to be, in terms of points allowed in overall yards, in total defense kind of an idea, somewhere in the 10 to 12 range in terms of rankings at the end of the year.
If they're not in the top third, then things have gone horribly wrong with the way and style that Pete Carroll wants to play this game.
But there's been enough change. There's change at the top in terms of the DC and really that kind of collaborative group that they're using as a defensive coordinator. I think this defense is going to be a little less predictable and something different than what the league has been teeing off on for the last few years.
I think that last year they recognized that shifts had to be made. And I think they were starting to make that happen last year. Yeah, for whatever reason, it didn't materialize in the way that it needed to have success. But
could get off the damn field. The time of possession thing, man. It was maddening last year.
Yeah.
If that doesn't improve this year, it's going to be a rough go.
It's going to depend on whether or not they can move the chains running the ball versus throwing the ball, though.
I don't know. Offense is going to be what it's going to be. I think it's going to be a little rough for the year. It's definitely going to be inconsistent. I think with that said, it all comes down to the defense, making sure that they get off the field and get the ball back to the offense for multiple opportunities to string together that one drive that looks good, or that, those 2 to 3 drives. That's what's going to have to happen. It's going to be, the onus is going to be on the defense this year.
Well, before we get to the final question that I want to ask, any second year player who you expect to see the biggest improvement from? And there's not a lot to choose from. I realize this, but it's something that we consistently like to try and look at.
Yeah.
But with the draft, you only had D. Eskridge, Trey Brown, Stone Forsythe, but you can throw Curran in there at right tackle. Of those 4 guys, who are we expecting the biggest improvement from?
I would say it's a boring answer, but I would say it's Eskridge. The bar's pretty low. He just didn't play much last year. And so if he can come in and be the 3rd and 4th receiver on the regular and play game in, game out, you're going to see a lot of improvement out of him just by terms of him being out.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think of?
Well, it's tough because Trey Brown is coming off a significant injury. I would hope that he can be what he was when we were seeing him on the field before the injury last year. Eskridge, I'm having a hard time just based on him not being able to practice much. He's kind of feeling in that Rashad Penny type of vibe for me in terms of his preseason injuries now. I think it would probably be Curran, that if he's going to be the guy that's not giving up any reps in the first team, if he's consistently out there with that group, that if he's getting all that work in the offseason, that he can build on that then and ultimately be the starter. Now, that might not be the hope for some people who hope that a guy like Abe Lucas could come in and be that starter at right tackle. But as long as they have a dude who's solid there, I don't care if his last name's Lucas or Curran or Forsyth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are on the Stone train as well. So there is that. Would you consider that improvement if Curran came in and just was a league average starter?
If he showed it throughout the whole season, I would consider that improvement, because he had his ups and downs in terms of his moments on the right side of the line last year. It wasn't perfect.
No, it wasn't perfect. A league average player isn't perfect.
Yeah, and I feel like Ifedi was below league average, and yet he started 4 seasons and didn't miss a game at that spot. So
right.
If you can get that kind of production then out of an undrafted guy, I would hope that maybe the 3rd round pick that you got with Lucas would be the guy of the future that you could count on. But I'm not picky. I just want a right tackle. Look, Whoever ends up having that spot can be the best right tackle that the Seahawks have ever had in franchise history. Like, that's not a very high bar to try and reach.
Yeah, it's not like there's a long list of giant studs at right tackle, no doubt about it. But with that said, I feel like comparative to the rest of the offseason shows, this one is a little bit more negative, or at least for my end of things, because this is a fan show. So for the majority of the shows, you're going to get a fanboy kind of reaction to things, for sure. And no apologies for that, especially for me. Brandon's a little more even keeled than I am usually. But for the season expectation show, where I'm telling you what I think is actually going to, what's likely to happen, you got to take off the fanboy hat a little bit and look at reality. And is there a chance that Drew's good and everything is better than we hope and it all clicks? Yeah.
Oh, there's a chance.
Just doesn't feel all that way.
When you add up all of the chances to where you're saying you hope that things go well with all these particular guys, all this has to go well to get to probably a 10-win season at best. Like, I feel like that would be the ceiling if things go well, which means I'm predicting more of things being more toward the floor. But let me ask you this, because this was a question from a listener. What is a successful season for the Seahawks? Not how do you think things are going to go. What is a successful season? Because I think you could go a couple different ways with this.
A successful season. That's an interesting question. A successful season to me is the defense flashes with young talent and looks to be a dominant defense going forward. And then Penny has a healthy, successful, consistent year. And that's about it. That would be a successful season to me. I don't much care what the record is this year.
Okay.
I really don't.
Well, since you took it that way, I'll take it in the direction of the record, because the answer is that a successful season is either they're good enough to make the playoffs or bad enough to earn a top 5 draft pick. Because if you're either a top 14 team, then you're excited because, one, the defense probably played well enough. The running game worked well enough to get you in position to be a playoff team. Maybe it's Drew that you see some potential future there. Or you're a bottom 8 team where, because shoot, if you're a bottom 8 team, the Broncos, which we expect to be a bottom 8 team, so we can get that good draft pick from them too. Pair those together, and you're talking about finding a couple pieces for the future potentially in those spots. So that could work out really well, and in that case, that could be seen as a success.
In terms of the upcoming draft, they made that draft a success this last year with trading Russ. It's already in the bag that this next year will be a success for you because you'll be able to find that quarterback. Whichever one it is, that you like coming out of this draft, as John Schneider and Pete Carroll, you have the ammo to go get. You just do.
Right. And if you face off in the Super Bowl against the Broncos, then it's probably going to be with Drew Lock. And in that case, you do have your quarterback of the future. And yeah, those 2 first-round picks, they might be at the end of the draft, but you have your quarterback taken care of. And then maybe you're just looking for depth there at the bottom of the first and second round. I'm living in fantasy world here. Don't roll your eyes or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I mean, a lot of people who are on the tank train, and I get it. I mean, that has been a tactic that has been used by teams for a good long time now. It does not always pan out how you hope. Ask Jags fans, ask Jets fans, any other team that starts with a J, apparently. But seriously, though, like, that's not a surefire way to get your guy. And I would much rather compete, at least be competitive in all these games, and win a handful of games and have some hope looking at least the defensive side of the ball than go into a full 2-win team. And I don't think that's going to happen. I genuinely don't. I don't think I've seen articles and headlines that the Seahawks are going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. And that's just factually incorrect.
It would go against every piece of Pete Carroll's being to be non-competitive, to lose in the way that I think you would have to lose to be that bad. I'm not expecting much either. I'm expecting a 6-11 team.
Interesting. That's exactly what I was going to say. Pete Carroll has not won fewer than 7 games at any time during his career. The first 2 times were the first 2 seasons without Russ.
Yeah.
And last year, more or less without Russ.
Right.
So 7 wins seems to be about where that is. However, this year, the division should be tougher than those first 2 years when you were piling up those 7 wins. So I think this is the year that they end up at 6, but I don't think it's going to be as tough as everybody predicts. The Rams are already struggling with injuries, big injuries.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Trey Lance believer. I'm not. I think it's going to be, at least for this very first year of him starting, I think he has a lot of lumps to take. A lot. No matter how many highlight videos and shorts we see of Trey Lance making amazing wobbly duck throws that the receiver bails him out on.
Well, I do want to get into maybe some of our expectations for our rivals. We did do our Know Your Rivals series, but there has been some news since those shows came out, and I want to get to that coming up after the break. Getting into the second half of the show. If you haven't seen the news yet, good little news item here. We're going to be doing what is going to amount to just about daily shows here this season.
Yeah, this is really exciting stuff. Just kind of taking this whole thing to the next level, and just want to thank Clinton and Wilson for
Phil
coming along for the ride, and Phil, and just really taking this again to the next level. Those guys, Phil's What If shows are great. That's going to be really fun. I'm really excited to add that to the lineup. Doing the betting show with Clinton and Wilson is going to be a massive learning curve for me, and I'm looking forward to that. And then just the press conference recaps that Wilson and you have been putting out here over this last week are just excellently done. If you want to get a concise, condensed version without having to listen to all the pressers to get some of the more juicy stuff out of them, boy, what a way to do that.
Yeah. And if you already watch the press conferences, they may not be for you.
Oh, yeah. And that's the beauty. So you're going to have extra shows showed up in your feed. And if you don't want to listen to them, don't.
And if you're like me and you tuned in and heard a Coca-Cola ad before the show for the first time, that was something new for me.
Yeah. I will. I'll take Coke money.
I don't even like Coke.
What? Oh, yeah. You're a weird Pepsi guy.
Yeah, I'm a Pepsi guy.
That's disgusting, but okay.
I'll tell you that I am a Pepsi guy, but it's not like I'm not so team Pepsi like my wife is. We'll go to a restaurant And I have to say, it's almost embarrassing sometimes because she'll ask, oh, do you have Coke or Pepsi? And they'll say Coke. And she'll be like, ugh, I'll have water.
Which is the better choice anyways. Water's delicious.
And it's just, I may not be exaggerating much when I make that sound.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see it. I could see the facial expression and everything in my mind's eye. I definitely can.
So there you go.
And it's probably similar to my reaction when I go down south and I ask for tea and they ask if I want Swai Thai. I'm like, no, I don't want Swai Thai. I don't want diabetes in a cup.
Sweet tea is so sweet. Oh my gosh.
It's diabetes in a cup.
I got some at Chick-fil-A on accident once because they have the sweet tea and the unsweet tea.
Yeah.
And they gave me the sweet tea and
I almost every time I go to Chick-fil-A, I end up with the sweet tea instead of the regular tea because they're a Southern chain.
Well, what you have to do is you ask for the diet lemonade with the unsweet tea. And usually that it clues them in to say no sugar in this tea.
I guess, but that sounds like a really poorly done Arnold Palmer.
Diet lemonade, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk NFC West.
Yeah.
Niners, some good news. Good news for them. Trey Lance officially named the starter. And they re-signed Deebo Samuel. So, which is, like I said, good news for them. Although I did hear that according to Michael Irvin, it sounded like Samuel legit wanted out. And it wasn't like Aaron Donald flirting with retirement, trying to get paid. But the bad news for the 49ers is that the defense in practice looks amazing.
Right. And you can take that however you'd like, right?
Iron sharpens iron, Adam. That defense, I mean, just think of what Trey Lance is going to be like when he goes against a not 49ers defense.
Right. He'll be a very raw, basic rookie. Yeah.
No, he's going to be amazing because that defense, he has to work so hard just to complete a pass in practice.
And that's because of the defense?
It's because of the defense and the looks that they give him.
Yeah. Not a Trey truther, man. I think that's going to be the undoing of this coaching and GM regime. I really do.
Well,
and again, history repeats itself, man. Shanahan is due for a bad year. It just is.
The Rams are due for a bad year. They did have some success this offseason and being able to give extensions to Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp. But then we're seeing that Matt Stafford had to get an injection into his throwing elbow to help alleviate pain, although he's still feeling pain that they say are the effects of the injection. So how does that work? And whatever is working, it's not allowing him to fully practice.
I had heard that the pain was from the surgery still that he had this offseason.
And they gave him an injection.
Oh, see, the quote I read from McVay, it was still the lingering effects of the surgery.
Oh.
Either way, when you're injury prone, ancient, and he is ancient, his body is ancient. He might be the same age as Russ and all that nonsense. He's an old quarterback. When your throwing elbow is flaring up now, that's alarming. You have to be terrified if you're a Rams fan there. And then the loss of Jefferson, the receiver. Never root for the ACL stuff or any of that, but that's a bummer.
Yeah, I heard he got carted off. Was it a CL?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
And then all the depth that they lost in the offseason.
They don't have a lot of depth to lose. So that's why losing a guy like Van Jefferson, especially when you don't know when Odell might be able to come back or if he even comes back to the team.
Right.
It can make it awfully tough. Now, I know that Cooper Kupp can go 1-on-4 with a lot of teams, and just like he did against the Bengals in the Super Bowl, but it's not going to work every week.
Kupp can do a lot of things, no doubt about it. He's a very good receiver, and it pains me to have to say that. But also, if your lead dog throwing the ball is already having the struggles, staying healthy, that's not a good sign. And I've seen so many people just have the Rams just penciled right back into the Super Bowl. And I think in this year's NFC, which is a lot of people call it weak, and that's fine. but it's definitely competitive. And I don't see the Rams cakewalking through the NFC again this year, unless Roger Goodell decides that that's what needs to happen. But I think winning the one chip or being given the one chip,
Right.
I think that's enough to get them going. Get football in LA.
Well, more drama at quarterback throughout the division. Every single one of these teams has drama at the quarterback spot.
Yeah.
Congrats to the Cardinals. You re-signed your head coach, your general manager, and your quarterback this offseason. And contracts are about give and take. But Kyler Murray, in his contract, gets a clause that he has to study for 4 hours a week, which I don't know what your reaction was when you saw that particular news item, Adam. 4 hours of quote unquote independent study per week. I looked at that and I thought, only 4?
Yeah. Only 4? Really?
Like if you're going to require somebody an independent study, you're only going to make it 4?
If they had put in there something like 15, 20 hours a week of independent study required, I'd have been like, oh, okay, maybe he's putting in like 5 to 10 hours a week or something like that. And they really feel like that's kind of the next thing they'll give him over the hump. When you put in the number 4, that means he doesn't do dick when he's outside of the facility.
Right.
That's what that means.
Yeah. You and I outside the facility watch 4 hours of film per week.
Easy. And I understand. Look, people are wired differently, different folks, different strokes, all that stuff, right? Not everybody's Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and in the film room all day, every day, right? Or even Russ or I don't know how much. Yeah, Rodgers probably does his work, but he seems like he probably does a little less, and that shows in the playoffs. But man, that was embarrassing. That was so embarrassing. And then they took it back out. Oh, sorry.
Well, because it looked horrible. And I can see from Kyler's perspective too, if he's like, oh, well, they want us to put this in there. He's like, well, shoot, I do 4 hours of study every single week. That's not a big deal for that to be in there. Of course I meet that, because of course he does. I mean, come on. Like we said, he has to, right?
Does he?
I think you're awfully down on Kyler if you don't think he's doing that little studying outside the facility.
I didn't think that before the clause. I knew that he probably wasn't somebody that really approached the game from the intellectual side of things as much as, say, Russ does, right?
Yeah, or Manning or Brady, yeah.
Right.
But maybe in the same level of, I don't know, name your other quarterback out there.
Daniel Jones. Somebody like that, right? I would have guessed he probably approaches the game as much as he does, or whoever, right? With that said, there's also that article that came out the year before where he was interviewed, and he's like, yeah, I kind of just blessed with being able to see it.
So he did come out and say that he does buy more into his natural abilities than maybe having to work as hard as some of the guys who really have to grind.
If I'm going to play devil's advocate, which I don't want to, because I genuinely don't care for Kyler Murray, the argument would be because of his height and his play style, playing it from, like, say, a Peyton Manning perspective, where you're really trying to dictate the defenses with formations and playing in rhythm and on time and going through your reads and all of that. That's not his game. So if that's not your game, if the majority of your game is pirouetting out of the pocket when there isn't really a plan after that, other than just kind of make yourself available to the quarterback, what is there to study for that? Don't you kind of just have to see it?
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I guess I didn't consider. I more bought into the idea of hearing him talk about it in this press conference and say, as short as I am, I wouldn't have any success in this league if I didn't actually work at it in both the film room and on the field.
Yeah, I think for sure what you can say, he definitely puts in the work on his body. There is nobody that can say otherwise on that. You can tell. Like, that guy is a physical specimen for his size. No doubt about it. Secondly, I'm sure he puts in the work when he's at the facility. I don't think he's a total lazy loaf. I don't think that at all. But I don't think that he cares much to put in much more of the work on the mental aspect of the game when he's at home.
And maybe that's the other thing too. How much time do guys like this have at home after? Because you always hear about the quarterbacks. Oh, they're the first guy in and they're the last to leave. Well, if that's the case, why do you need to do a whole bunch of independent study away from the facility anyway?
Yeah, there's that. And then I guess you have the time to do it when you're away from the facility if there really is no time to sleep.
That's true. I think that Kyler finds time to sleep.
I think he does too. I think he has time to play Call of Duty as well.
I have heard that he's into the gaming.
And good for him. We all need places to relax. I understand. But then again, I'm not being paid $1 quadrillion to be the face of $1 billion franchise.
I feel like it's not asking a whole lot for a guy like our own DK Metcalf to, I don't know, maybe give up some of the gummy bears now that he's getting paid and mix in some chicken instead.
When he goes from having a 13 to 16 pack down to a 12 pack for abs, then maybe I'll get on him about the gummy bears. Until then, I don't give a shit. Do what you want, big guy, because it's working.
I don't think there was a gummy bear clause that I'm aware of in DK Metcalf's new contract.
No, there wasn't the Section C regarding Haribo, right?
You are on a 5-bag Haribo limit per day, DK.
Yeah, wasn't in there.
And if you're going to go gummy worms, they have to be the sour ones.
No, the Cardinals, I think they're going to be the last place team in this division this year. I really do.
Gosh, I don't know.
No D-Hop, a bunch of older stars that you're relying on, a quarterback who can't be bothered to work, a coach who's clearly outclassed by every other coach in his division.
All that said, I think it's probably going to be a coin flip between us and the Cardinals.
I think the Cardinals are a 4-win team.
All right. I think that they can get to 6. And then in that case, it's going to come down to tiebreakers.
Well, here's the thing. When we made our record predictions earlier, this is a lot like last year for me, for the Seahawks. You could have told me anywhere from 3 wins to 12 wins, and I would have believed you. This year, I would take anywhere from 3 to 10, and I'd believe you. They ended up at 7, 8, 9 wins. I wouldn't be stunned. I would not be stunned.
For Seattle?
Yeah.
Or for the Cardinals?
No, for Seattle, which puts them in front of the Cardinals, even if they do miraculously manage to get to 6 games.
Well, now we're caught up on our NFC West rivals. What do you say we welcome some new members of the flock?
I think that is an excellent idea. I would love to.
Thanks to our executive producers, DCH, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen. And a welcome back to a number of our flock members who came in. It is that time of year where it's the new season. And so they check things like their statements to make sure that they're coming through and supporting the show. And I saw a familiar name, Santiago Lopez, in at $5 a month. So welcome back, Santiago.
Yeah, back in with Santiago. That's awesome, man. Appreciate it. And it makes a lot of sense that there's a few folks that maybe drop out for the offseason. That doesn't make me mad. I totally understand that.
They're back, or they have the annual subscriptions that they re-up, like Jeremy Green, who's in at $60 for the year, says, after realizing that I never updated my card on Patreon and I have been unknowingly freeloading for a while, I'm back. I gotta say, I'm pretty excited about this season. It's kind of like when Pete took over and we had all the roster turnover. I hate seeing our favorite guys leave, but hey, at least to fill the void, we got, well, never mind. Anyway, it's time for a new era in Seahawks football, so let's flock up.
I like it.
Keep up the good work and go Hawks from Jeremy.
Jeremy, I understand that the whole unintentionally freeloading thing, Wells Fargo just decided that I needed a new card. I didn't need a new card, but they decided I did. And then all of a sudden, like, a lot of my payments didn't go through. I hate that.
Yeah.
Because you always forget a few.
Yeah, there's always some that get missed.
Yeah.
Michael Paul down in San Diego came in and came through Venmo, and he came in at $242.40.
Okay.
And we always say, pick numbers that are meaningful to you. Michael says, just my contribution to the new Seahawks podcasting media giant. I enjoy all the shows and appreciate the effort you all put in. The math is simple, but if Adam can figure out what the significance of my yearly total is, I'll send in a little bonus toward his upcoming sawmill retirement. And if he wants to share the story behind his left hand incident.
Oh, yeah. Number one, so the amount was what?
$242.40. 24240.
Yeah, I'd have to think on that one. I don't know.
All right.
Do you know?
Yeah.
No, of course you do.
I'm a numbers guy, Adam. I can tell you what you can. Maybe you can think, because I don't. I think I have heard that you almost lost your hand. Well, I think we all did when we talked on the preview show that for the entire season that you mentioned nearly losing it. And I remember you telling me that, but I don't know if you had said. Well, you did say that you were being dumb.
Yeah. So, long story short, the reason I didn't share this a long time ago is I wanted enough time to go by so that nobody could figure out what mill that I was at when this happened, so nobody would get in trouble, potentially. So somewhere between the last month and 12 months, I was at a mill. We were trying to yard the equipment out of the machine that we were working on. And basically these two giant steel wheels, picture a train tire or a train wheel that's 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall. There were two of those, and they were maybe like 4 feet apart. And it's hard when you have.
It's like an old timey movie projector, right, with the two film reels on either side.
Yeah. So picture that on one side, another old timey reel machine on the other side, and they were apart from one another, and we couldn't get our equipment up between them. And instead of just setting the equipment down and getting out of the machine and hooking it up to a chain so that it would just dangle there, our equipment, I got talked into just standing down there and holding it. And as I had my hand above my head holding the equipment, they turned the hydraulics on to these machines that are thousands and thousands of pounds, and they move instantaneously. And they move together so fast that you can't see them. And if you're thinking hydraulics, think of like tractors and backhoes and things like that. It's quite a bit of power there.
Mm-hmm.
So my hand got smashed between our equipment in the face of one of those wheels, to the point to where I couldn't pull it out of there. I couldn't move it. I just had to scream to the guys to open the machine back up. And usually when that happens, you just don't have a hand in it. Like, it's just gone.
It's like a pancake.
It's just sheared off. I don't know how it didn't happen for me. I got extremely lucky. That was a stupid, dumb thing to do. So anyhow, it didn't even get broken. I do have some scars on my hand that will be there for the rest of my life. That's for sure. Some big ones. And it hurt like hell. But it was definitely a wake-up call. It was one where I was like, yeah, maybe it's time to be done with this. 10 years, I've kept all my limbs. That's not normal, necessarily. Usually somebody loses at least the tip of a finger or something like that. So far, so good for me. So it was a big motivator to want to finish up my sawmill career. And then I get to devote more time to this. And, talk to you guys and do something I truly enjoy. And also not be traveling, because I'm sick and tired of traveling. And it's going to be great. So with, your efforts, Brandon, and Clinton's and Wilson's and Phil's, and then the support of all of you little flockers, this is happening. And I'm going to make the leap. It's a little scary, but I'm excited. And so I appreciate all y'all. And I hope that this increase in output from our end increases the value that you get. And then you can do that equation in your head, value for value, and decide if maybe a little more money shooting our way is worth it to you.
Well, Michael Paul, a notorious Rashad Penny fan, and it is an annual donation. So if you divide that amount by 12.
Yes.
Any idea what that comes to?
20?
$20.20 a month.
That's awesome. Now, see, Michael Paul is off the hook. He does not have to send in the extra bonus because I needed to cheat off of Brandon's paper. But yeah, that's very interesting. See, you're into the scoregami stuff.
I know. It's also interesting, though, that it's a double Marshawn, 2-4-2-4-0.
That's kind of where my head was at, but then I couldn't figure out where the 0 went because Marshawn wasn't a 0.
Right.
He was a hero.
Well, I think Michael would probably want to donate more than $24.24, but
true.
Just throwing an extra 0 on there.
I did want to talk about one of the things that Penny said in his presser.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic and you just brought up Marshawn, he's like, with Chris Carson retiring, well, he set the standard for what a Seattle running back should be. And I was like,
know your history, Rashad.
Yeah. I was like, at the very least, it's Marshawn. And then you can go back to, Sean or Ricky
Chris,
Waters
or
Chris or John L. Williams or Kurt Warner.
Right.
Or,
there's been a pretty good history of running backs in Seattle.
That's no slight to Chris Carson, but I don't know that he set the standard.
But for Penny, it's the closest one he knows.
Yeah.
Corey Nagel in at $198 Australian. Welcome to the flock to Corey.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it, dude.
Matt Hansen in at $5 a month. Welcome to the flock to Matt.
Heck yeah, Matt. Appreciate it, bud. And the $5, that gets you in the Pick'em League, yeah?
It does.
Okay. Then we'll have instructions on that coming up.
Yeah, look in the show notes. I think it'll just be on the same site as last year, and I think it rolls over all the team names and info. And speaking of the Pick'em, I have all the prizes that are ready to go. So if you put in, I still haven't heard from some people on prizes.
Okay.
So if you're expecting a prize, I'll put the other team names out there in the show notes, and that way you can check to see if your team name's on that list. And if it is, I haven't heard from you. And there's still a few people outstanding for prizes, but I'm going to get all the ones that are ready shipped out here this week. And I'll be caught up.
Awesome. Hey, if you do not get back to Brandon by week 1 of the season, week 1 of the regular season, the prizes roll over and we're going to give them away to somebody else.
There we go. Good call. Also into the flock, Neil Christensen in at 84 Canadian annually, and Alan Christensen in at 84 Canadian annually.
Neil and Alan have to be brothers or cousins or related somehow, yeah?
I believe we're going to get into it with this note here.
Oh, good. There's a note. Okay.
Hey, Brandon and Adam. Thrilled to finally be supporting the best Seahawks-related podcast in the multiverse. I've been listening since 2014. A shameful freeloader. But no more. The announcement of your new lineup finally got me to do the right thing. I also wanted to celebrate my brother, Neil Christensen, an even bigger Hawks fanatic than me, getting a great new job. I provided the Canuck bucks for him to sign on as a little flocker too. We've been watching the Hawks together since the first game in 1976. Try to go to at least one live game a year, connect via audio app during each game, and always include quotes from the Seahawkers podcast in our game day conversations.
Yeah.
Go Hawks from Alan.
Dude, the brothers Christensen, both in the flock now. I mean, the flock is more powerful as a result. I definitely feel it.
Alan hooking up his brother Neil. Very nice.
That's awesome, man. It's really cool when you get to hear little things like that it permeates even like game day talk for them.
Yeah, that's cool. Michael in Emerald City checking in at $5 a month. Welcome to the flock to Michael.
Heck yeah, Michael. Appreciate that a ton, bud. Emerald City, that is Seattle, yeah?
It is Seattle, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so for whatever
reason. It's confusing
reason,
because of the Wizard of Oz, right?
No, it's because I'm dumb. It's confusing because I'm dumb. I get Missoula, the Garden City, Portland, the Rose City, and Seattle, the Emerald City, screwed up in my head all the time.
Okay. Well, you nailed it right there.
Well, yeah, because you lined me out. Like if I could get the Emerald one, then the rest fall into place. Yeah.
Mark Misselbrook is in, gave us a raise from £1 to $4. Said, so with you guys going full bore into the new season, thought it was time to start moving back through the tiers as things improve post-COVID. Been great to see the community grow and develop over that time. So I, for one, am looking forward to the flight of the Hawkers this year. Who knows what to expect? Going to be a hell of a ride. No curse in sight, I hope. Adam needs to get all ranty, and Brandon, you need to talk him down. Loving the content. And with that, there's only one thing left to say. Let's ride. Oops. Sorry. Go Hawks.
Yeah, go Hawks, Mark.
P.S. Loved Keenan Allen's tribute to Russ. Better at life deserving, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, Mark, you bring up a good thing because the Let's Ride curse is spreading. It's a disease.
It's a disease. I do want to save it though. We're going to get to it.
Great.
First, I want to get to a review. Someone giving us 5 stars. Oh, Timotah says they have the switch flipped. To have a good podcast, you have to have a switch that you can turn on and off when you want. But really, the switch should always be on. But you need to know when to turn it on and when it's off. This podcast switch is never off, even when they have to turn it on.
That review was on. There is no other way to put it. It was on the whole time, the whole way. Switch on, buddy. That was awesome. Appreciate that review, man. That was hilarious. That made me laugh.
It's reviews like that I see people who may not have any idea what this podcast is about, not having any idea what quote that's related to.
Yeah.
Going through, being like, what the? And that might actually make them tuned into the show. Like, I have to see what this show's about.
I got to say the second half nonsense might be better than the first half Seahawks coverage on the regular.
Maybe that's why people stick around.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, a lot of emails here on our second half content. We got one here.
Cool.
Says, hey guys, just wanted to say congratulations on making the jump to doing the show daily. I always wondered why you didn't do it like this ages ago. I love the show and things are only going to get better from here. For Adam, I chucked in my 50 to 70 hour a week job to chase my dreams to play music full time a few years ago and have never been happier. Sure, it's a pay cut, but totally worth it. Time is the only thing that matters and the only thing that really holds true value in life. Now, I'm backtracking here. But why wasn't macadamias at the top of the nuts list? 1 macadamias, 2 cashews, 3 pistachios, 4 pecans, 5 almonds. Peanuts on the list is ludicrous. And sunflower seeds, really? Also, pecan pie is the #1 dessert and waffles over pancakes.
Yeah.
Keep up the great work. All the best, Shane, Aussie Hawk.
Shane also had a suggestion that for the pecan pie that you can replace the pecans with macadamia nuts, which sounds delicious because he's not wrong about macadamias. Those nuts are delicious.
Well, Alex Simmons also came in about the macadamia nuts. Says, first off, love you guys, but sunflower seeds are not nuts. The clue is in the name. And the #1 rich people nut, without a doubt, the macadamia nut. Though I'd rather gorge on pistachios.
Yeah.
So see, I didn't think about macadamia nuts because it's a rich people nut. And also, aren't macadamias the ones that they put in with the white chocolate cookies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not for me.
You don't like white chocolate macadamia nut cookies?
Nope.
Catfish! This show's over. I'm not doing this daily stuff. We're disbanding now. How did you live as a human?
I ate chocolate chip cookies like a normal person who eats really, really good cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies are excellent as well. You can't enjoy a little diversity in your cookie game?
Yeah.
Peanut
butter cookies are my diversity.
No, that is not. No.
Snickerdoodles, diversity.
You don't have a diversity in chocolate. And you're a chocolate racist. That's what you are.
I am not.
Don't deny it.
Just because I don't want white chocolate, no. I'll have dark chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate. That's the diversity I need in my chocolating.
Anti-white chocolate.
Yeah.
Jason Williams somewhere.
I don't even like Jason Williams as a basketball player. That's how anti-white chocolate I am.
How can you not like it? He's at least entertaining.
I may have been joking about that last one.
Okay. All right. I might have quit the show over that one.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know macadamia nuts were a rich man nut.
I'm just assuming that because they're not on my radar. I don't know.
I will say I disagree that sunflower seeds are not nuts. Seeds are nuts. Nuts are seeds. Seed nuts.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This gets us into a weird conversation because of where things are classified. Because sure, like technically, seeds might not be nuts, but also
But all nuts are seeds.
Are they? I don't know. But so Watermelons are in the berry family. So a watermelon is a berry. Cucumbers are berries.
Really?
And those two things are weird to me.
Yeah.
Like watermelon should be a melon and cucumber should be a vegetable because it's green and probably more healthy and not as sweet as most fruit.
Right. But delicious in gin.
Totally.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe seeds are technically seeds and not nuts.
But I'm pretty sure all nuts are seeds.
Probably, right?
Yeah. I think.
Because that's what the new plant grows out of.
I need a CDologist to come on and let us know. Or a nutologist.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Jacob Haas checked in, said, things might go better for us in our division than we thought. Arizona is already having a meltdown with Kyler, and the Whiners don't seem to trust their quarterback. And I think we agreed the Rams either won't repeat or won't be as good as people say. Side note, where do walnuts rank on your list?
Walnuts are up there, man. It's the difficult shelling process of the walnut that I think takes it down quite a ways.
I think it's the taste. I think
You don't like the taste of walnuts.
I think walnuts are scientifically classified as garbage.
Walnuts are good. What do you like? Gummy bears? Are you in DK on the gummy bear diet? Is that all you eat? Chocolate chip cookies?
Chocolate chip cookies, gummy bears all day over walnuts.
Walnuts are fine.
They're not a go-to. They're more of a mix-in type of thing.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a staple of the
in the handful
nut
of mixed nuts. The walnut's the one that you either eat first to get out of the way to enjoy the rest of the nuts, or save to last and throw them in the garbage.
No, you pair it with a cashew, dude.
No, I want to enjoy the cashew. Why would I pair it?
When you have mixed nuts in your mouth, Brandon, do you put one in at a time, or do you mix these nuts in your mouth?
I put the good ones in one at a time, and the rest ones
Okay.
I'll mix in.
Okay, so you're picky about which nuts you put in your mouth.
As one should be.
You know, I am not mad at anybody who's indiscriminate about the nuts they put in their mouth.
Hank Sink, someone I know who is not indiscriminate about the nuts that go in his mouth.
Yeah.
At Colehawk1 on Twitter. I just heard the announcement of all the content planned for the league new year.
Yeah.
I just have to say, kittens, cotton candy, and rainbows, waffles, nuts, and bananas. Bigger, better, faster, more. Go Hawks.
All of the above. None of that was wrong. Very well done.
And What the Smell checked in. I think this was via YouTube in a robot discussion. Can we add wings/helicopter rotor type things to the robot debate?
Yeah.
But walk all day so they can make it upstairs and etc.
Yeah, it was a big whiff on our part, not going with the flying bot.
I was trying to live in reality. I mean, we don't even have flying cars yet, and we want flying robots all of a sudden.
We have flying robots already.
Yeah, drones, but
Yeah, just because they're called a drone doesn't mean it's not a robot.
I mean, I can't tell it to do stuff and get me stuff.
Sure you can. Isn't that exactly what a drone does?
I mean, I feel like the drones that we have are like, go bomb this, or go spy on
Take
this
a picture
neighbor.
of that. Yeah. I did fly a drone for the first time the other day.
Oh,
Yeah, one
you
of the
got one
neighbors
for the
had
property?
No, I did not buy one. It was somebody else's, and but it was very cool to see the Gulch in all of its aerial glory. I've seen it from the air before because when we fly from Denver via United, they always kind of fly in a flight pattern that I can see up our little gulch, but it's not like the drone was.
You might get spoiled and have a new photography pastime with the drone.
I doubt it. They cost way too much money for what they are. No thanks. And I will say, when it's flying low and like near your head, like when you're first getting it going and stuff, it's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you got a drone up in the air at the Gulch and it didn't get shot down from any of the adjacent property owners.
It may have been a stealthier drone.
How to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for Sue L. Robinson, the judge in the Deshaun Watson suspension.
Oh, yeah.
Her ruling made zero sense, dude. I don't get it. There might be a reason she's a former federal judge because she seems to be catfish at her job. Like, basically goes through and says that she didn't really believe that Deshaun was truthful in the hearings.
Uh-huh.
That there was a preponderance of evidence that what he did was the most egregious thing that she's seen through the disciplinary process in the history of the NFL.
Right.
Okay, if that's
and
true,
that he didn't have remorse for his actions.
Right.
That was in there.
Yeah. Also, being a female judge on top of all of that should play it a little bit, you'd think. And
You
then,
think so?
yeah, you'd think so. And then this was one of the most egregious things that you've seen throughout the history of the NFL's disciplinary process. How is it that somebody like, I don't know, and people have their favorite example of this guy got this long and this is 6 games. My favorite is Plaxico Burress shot himself in the fucking leg himself. He shot himself and got 2 years, 2+ years for shooting himself. You think just shooting yourself would be punishment enough, but no, this is under Goodell too. He got 2+ years. It's on the NFL website. I went back and looked it up because I couldn't remember how long that was. And Deshaun Watson gets 6 games or a 6-game suggestion from Sewell Robinson. What a joke of recommendation for a suspension for a player who is accused of committing the acts that he did. And in the process that they just went through to get to this number, he doesn't have to be found guilty of any of this stuff. He doesn't have to go in front of a jury. You just have to look at it and be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you did that crap and you get this long. And she came up with 6 games. Sewell Robinson, do better.
Yeah, it was an interesting week of decisions for the NFL with that being one of them. The Dolphins decision, which found that Brian Flores, pretty much everything that he said was true about the Dolphins wanting to tank and lose games to get better draft picks, despite the fact that he was told that his boss really, really wanted that. The fact that he didn't execute that wish, that's what got off the Dolphins from being punished more.
Yeah.
The dude gets fired, doesn't have an NFL head coaching job anymore because he actually wanted to be competitive. And yet, I don't know, because it wasn't contractually written down, I guess, that the Dolphins owner could write it off as quote unquote, like just joking around. Okay.
Yeah. That was amazing. Now, you also left out the fact that they were tampering with a division rival's quarterback,
which is actually what they got punished for.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't get punished because of the tanking thing. No, it was because of the tampering, trying to get Tom Brady on their team. Right.
And Sean Payton, another team's coach.
Yeah.
Every Dolphins fan that is throwing the word Cheatriots at the Patriots, you're exactly the same.
Yeah, you can't do that, I suppose, if you're a Dolphins fan. Can't throw that out there anymore.
Nope, that's gone now.
I'm trying to figure out how to work tanking in with the Dolphins, but might have to workshop that a little bit.
Oh, well, I mean, you can't just let a dolphin free range. You got to put them in a tank. You got to tank them. Yeah.
It doesn't really work with the name.
Yeah. Yeah, let's workshop that. So do better, NFL?
NFL do better.
Okay.
Do better for our own team this week because, man, oh man, these last couple weeks leading up to the season, we got to see all these cool alternate helmets by all these teams that don't have one. And our Seahawks, we don't yet have the alternate throwback helmet because the rule changed this offseason. You can have a second color helmet all of a sudden. And all these other teams, they were able to somehow work around any supply chain issues and design an alternate helmet. And for some reason, our Seattle Seahawks could not find a way to get alternate helmets, alternate uniforms in time for the 2022 season. Yes, it was probably our do better in the offseason, but I was reminded of it because of the fact I'm seeing all these cool new alternative helmets going into 2022. And for our Seahawks, not being part of that train, do better.
There was a handful of cool ones. The
but I'm
majority
trying to play it up like every single one was cool, and we weren't even part of the party.
Well, okay. Or you
all
could
the cool kids showed up, and we were outside of the club.
Or you could be like the Cards, or pick the team that did this, but a bunch of them did this. You know what our alternate helmet is? It's going to be so cool. It's going to be black. It was so lame. Lame. Not cool. I'm so glad the Seahawks at least didn't do that. But yeah, why not? Like, does the guy who owns who owns the throwback logo? Is it not the team? Is there some guy? Like, does he have like leverage over the Allen family? Like how
supply chain? It's supply chain issues, Adam. Supply chain.
Okay. You okay?
It's what you blame it on. Look, just as we had the COVID excuse these last 2 years, everybody's had to find a new excuse for why things aren't happening. And we can't use COVID as much anymore, even though Pete Carroll does have COVID and he wasn't able to be on the field these last couple of days. I hope Pete gets better soon. Yeah. But now that we're not using the COVID excuse, it's the supply chain.
Right. Which is a spinoff of COVID, right?
It is.
Because the supply chain's broken because of COVID.
But now you have to say that. You have to say supply chain.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I guess if I don't want to go do a job coming up here over the next few months till I finish out the string here, I'm just going to say it's supply chain issues. I just can't. I can't go. I'm the thing that needs to be supplied, and the chain of me bringing myself there is broken, and I don't want to.
Or maybe, there's some tools that you really need that you don't have because of the supply chain.
Yeah. I can't even do that. I've got all the
tools. You don't have to. You just say supply chain.
I'm all out of pie tapes. Sorry.
On to Better at Life. My Better at Life this week, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier, Adam. Well, one of our emailers did with thanking Keenan Allen for the Let's Ride silliness on the sideline at Chargers practice. But going above and beyond Keenan Allen, Charles Curtis of USA Today put together an article of not just the Keenan Allen, but he documented the entire meme of Broncos country, Let's Ride, because this has grown due to the Let's Ride curse. This has grown into a meme now. The one video that we saw of Russell Wilson, of the outtakes of him trying to get the Broncos country Let's Ride quote just right. Well, that has gotten around, not just the NFL, but into college football. And so we have Spencer Rattler doing the whatever the version is of the South Carolina football Let's Ride.
Oh, it's got to be Cox Let's Ride.
I think it might be like Carolina country or something. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered it if he would have said that.
Cock country, let's ride.
Yeah, because they're the Gamecocks. It is Gamecock country. That is what he says.
Yeah, no, you got to drop the game.
You should shorten it.
Yeah.
But then you had Maryland football doing Terp country, let's ride. You had Hawks Nation for North Dakota, let's ride. Spartan Nation. So yeah, for Michigan State, everybody going through all these college football players memeing Broncos country, let's ride, and Russell Wilson, and there to document it all was Charles Curtis. And for that, he is better at life than Skip Bayless.
The Let's Ride curse is alive and well, and it's great. I love to see it spreading. It's like a virus. It's really fun. Although I went through and I watched many of these, and I don't think they took it far enough. I think most of them tried to kind of do a spot on impersonation or maybe even a lower key version. They needed to really go the other way and just make it ridiculous, like Bison Country. Let's ride, or just do some weird stuff. Maybe do an Elway version, let's ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like when Tyler Lockett and, who was the offensive lineman? They recreated the Sierra and Russ. We got a deal video.
Oh, that was gold. Oh my God. Which lineman did that with?
It was the guard. It was the guard that ended up going to play for Baltimore.
How do I not remember this?
He's a first round pick. I think it was a 2013 first round pick. Why can't we remember his name? Because all I want to say is Sweezy.
But it wasn't Sweezy.
It wasn't Sweezy. It was DJ Fluker.
Oh, okay. When you said 2013 first round pick, I was thinking for us. I was like, who did we draft?
No, we ended up with all the first round picks. We ended up with Mingo. We ended up with Ziggy Ansah, Luke Jokel, Deion Jordan, Sheldon Richardson was a member of the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Almost the entire top 15 of the 2013 draft rolled through Seattle.
I hope we've lost the obsession of wanting to collect all the former first-round picks from a bad draft.
None of those really worked out. Actually, Fluker was probably the one that worked out of the best.
Yeah.
Out of all those. Yeah.
He's pretty good for us. Yeah. Well, Brandon, my better at life than Skip Bayless this week. I can't just give it to one guy. It's got to be the pairing of the legendary KJ Wright and Chris Carson. Both retiring here in the last week. And if you haven't gone and watched KJ's press conference, his retirement press conference, number one, do it. And if you don't, at least begin to tear up at some point through it, you should check yourself into a prison or Supermax or something, because you're a soulless, heartless bastard and probably a murderer. Like, there's no way that you can get through that and not feel the feels. Just KJ with his speech, just wrapping up a unbelievably classy career in an unbelievably classy way. And the love that he showed for the organization and the coaches and the fans and everything, just unbelievable. And then for Chris Carson having to retire because of the neck injury, it sounds like there was still some pain there that's not going away. What a brutal thing to possibly have to live the rest of his life with in order to pursue the dream of playing professional football and to bring us all of those amazing moments, the flip, all the hard runs, all the stuff that Chris Carson brought us over the years, setting the standard for what a Seahawks running back should be. Just awesome dudes, guys that I will remember forever as Seahawks and just proud to have on our team. So KJ Wright, Chris Carson, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Absolutely. Undoubtedly better at life than Skip Bayless. And the only thing that bums me out more than them leaving the team is that they did it at this time of year, because usually when we say goodbye to some of the top athletes that have been with the franchise, it's at the start of the offseason, which gives us a ton of time to put together our tribute shows for the players who deserve it. Yeah. And I think that both these players are deserving, and we have to try and find the time now to do a tribute show here before the season starts.
Heck yeah. And I'd be remiss if I didn't throw in Justin Britt as well, who signed I believe a one-day deal to retire.
No, J.R. Sweezy. Sweezy signed a one-day deal. Britt's still playing.
It was Sweezy? I swore it was Britt.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Sweezy.
I'm pretty sure it's Britt.
Because Sweezy hasn't played for a couple of years, and it happened right after the KJ news.
Justin Britt. Let's do some Googles.
Either way, neither of those guys are getting a tribute show like Chris and KJ.
Yeah.
I don't know how you put together a tribute show for an offensive lineman either.
All you have, baby, is pancakes.
But you don't really get the exciting announcements of the pancaking. You know, like, where's the Steve Rabel pancake call?
Well, that's because everybody hasn't caught on to us in our mission to try to make the pancake a stat and to be more celebrated.
It does need to happen.
Yes.
I don't know
why.
The only
thing that would be better than just celebrating pancakes and having them be a stat is if they change the phrase to waffles.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
It was Sweezy. I told you.
Damn it, you're so right.